what if I told you that we could see in the future and know if all the efforts you're putting to raise your child multilingual and multi-literate are going to pay off? Well, that's not possible. So the second best thing we can do is to future-proof that journey. Are you ready to see how you can do that? Go! Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Yoshito Darmanchimamori, the founder of the Library for Multilinguals, and on this channel I share with you tips on how you can help your child to read and write in your home languages in a fun way. So if this is a topic that interests you, make sure to subscribe to your channel and ring the notification bell. My own experience growing up bilingual French-Japanese in France has highlighted many stumble blocks on the multi-literacy journey. And this is why I'm so passionate about sharing possible solutions or ways to overcome challenges. This is why I created this YouTube channel, and also why I published my book, The Parent's Guide to Raising Multi-Literate Children. I'm going to leave the link in the description below. And today I'm going to share with you these possible stumble blocks that your child might come across and how we can future-proof it so that they don't suffer from it too much or at all. But before I carry on, let me give you a bit of background. So as I said, I grew up bilingual in France and I learned Japanese. I learned to read and write in Japanese in a complementary school and later on in an international school where I got 6 hours a week of Japanese. So I basically benefited from a formal education in Japanese up to a certain extent from the age of 7 to 19. So it was only a few hours a week, but it was continuous throughout these years. So as I said, overall, I'm extremely happy and feel lucky to have had this education. However, it has highlighted a few problems that I'd like to share with you regarding learning to read and write in your home languages, even if you attend a school. One little advice I would give is that even if you can send your child to an international school, bilingual school, or a complementary school, you still do things at home. And today what I'm going to talk about is what help you can give your child at home. So this video is going to be both for teachers to understand what it means to grow up and learn to read and write in a language that's the minority language, even if it's one of your mother tongues. And it's also a video for parents to see what they can do concretely to help their children to have a smooth multi-literate journey. So let's start with the challenges a multilingual child generally faces, and then we can see the possible solutions or ways to prevent any bad consequence. So the first big thing is that it's really different to learn to read and write in a home language and in the majority language. So the minority language can be taught in the same way. The first reason is that there is less exposure. So the majority language is used, we pick it up almost effortlessly, and that goes for the spoken and written words. So majority language is a functional language that helps you access things, interact with the world around you a lot more easily than with the home language, where it's maybe constrained with just a small space around you, maybe just at home, or if you know some other families, maybe with these families, but otherwise it's not that useful, that functional. So this inevitably results in a gap between the amount of words and expressions your child might know in their majority language and minority language. And with years, if we're not careful, this gap is going to grow bigger and bigger. The second challenge is a time constraint for the minority language. Generally speaking, a child will read and write a lot less in their minority language, in their home language, than the majority one. So in other words, if you're using a textbook at home that's meant for someone who's living in a country where the language is the majority language, you will definitely go at a slower pace. And that can be demoralizing, maybe more for you than for your child, to see that, okay, he's in year 2, but he's only doing work for year 1 because he's not at that stage yet. Just keep in mind that if you're teaching your child at home, you can just go at their own pace. The third challenge I wanted to talk about is the emotional barriers. So first of all, if your child is learning at home with you in a complementary school, they will be doing that outside school. So it will be extra work for them when their friends might be relaxing, watching TV, playing football, or doing all sorts of fun things. The second barrier, psychological barrier, is that a minority language, a home language, might not be perceived as a priority for your child. They might be thinking, I'm never going to be living in that country, so when they be, for example, in secondary school, they have a lot more work to do. The work on the home language might become secondary. They might not prioritize that because they have so much to do. And personally, I know that if I hadn't had these 6 hours of Japanese in my timetable in school, I would have probably given up on that. So as a parent, this is something I'm keeping in mind. My children are still 6 and 8, so I feel I still have a few more years before they have too much to do and start thinking, why do I need to do this French or Korean thing when I have so much to do at school in English? And this is certainly something I keep in mind, that my sons are going to be busier and busier the older they get, and maybe they spend more time with their friends than with us. So right now is a time where I have to put a lot of effort to put loads of things in place that we're going to talk about in this video. So to start with, how can we bridge the gap between the range of vocabulary your child have in their majority language and the one they have in their minority language? Generally speaking, in a family, we always do the same things regularly, weekly or daily. So the amount of things your child needs to be able to say is restricted to that. In school, in the majority language, your child will learn all sorts of things in loads of different subjects. So their vocabulary is going to expand more and more. So we need to give our children the opportunity to encounter and to use a wider variety of vocabulary. So here are a few examples. So the first thing we're focusing on right now, while our sons are still 6 and 8, so in primary school, is really to put into the routine some family moments where we play together, we spend time together. So on a daily basis, for example, we read books, listen to podcasts or audiobooks, not necessarily in our languages, just mainly to spend time together. And of course, we include some French and Korean. We also organize movie nights where each week we have a turn in choosing the film we want to watch all together, and generally ends up being in French or Korean. A big game changer for us has been to have a one-to-one time with each of our sons. We focus on what they like to do, and we do that in our home languages. And the last thing we do on a weekly basis is some literacy work that's almost exclusively play and games. So this creates a lot of input in our languages, and it gives them the vocabulary to use with us as well in that language. Another thing we do is to try to make the experiences they have really relevant to them. Because the more relevant it is, the more it's going to stick in their memory. It's a lot of work for us, for example, to find resources, books, films that they're going to like. And we also play pretend plays with them. So it's mainly their stories, we're just here to play with them. But it's relevant to them, and whatever word we can give them to play batons, etc. with their figurines is going to stick in their head. And that goes hand in hand with what we do to compensate for the lack of time. So we focus on our children's interest, because the more interested they are in something, the more they want to know how to express themselves, to talk about it. And also because they like it, they remember it better. For example, one thing that has really helped my 6-year-old to consolidate his knowledge of English phonics has been this Pokemon dictionary. The name of the characters really helped consolidate them. Because when we were reading a book, I could point at the fact that this phoneme is the same as this character in Pokemon. The other thing we do to compensate for the lack of time, the lack of our time, parents, is or has been to teach them to read and write in our languages. It has given them the independence to be able to get a book and start reading on their own, and therefore to practice on their own. And while they're in primary, what we try to do as well is to give them tools and techniques to work out the meaning of words that are more difficult, to work them out from the context, or to teach them about prefixes and suffixes and how words are created. And then they can apply it for other words. At the moment, it's a lot of us modeling how we can work out the meaning, but later on, they'll be able to do it on their own. We also show that sometimes we don't know the meaning of some words, so we check in dictionaries on our phones, for example, and so they see that we don't know everything, and we use this thing called a dictionary that they can use as well. And now they're even faster to think about using the dictionary. They say, when I'm struggling to translate a word or to explain what it means, they're like, oh yeah, but use the dictionary. And so then they can start typing the word as well, start using them for themselves. So giving all these tools is going to help them become more and more independent. You know, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's going to take time. But after that, after some years, they'll be able to do it confidently, naturally. So now what do I do for the emotional barriers? So I talked about the fact that literacy work could seem like extra work. So for this, I just play a lot at the time. So all the activities we do to practice reading, writing is really game-based. And again, this is all in my book. You have more than 70 activities, so if you're interested, you can have a look. I'll leave the description below. And for the second emotional barrier, about the fact that they might think that our languages are optional, not really necessary, we try to get them to see that our languages are important, emotionally important for them. It links them to their families, it gives them access to things that other children who don't speak French and Korean don't know about. It can be cartoons, books, it can also be cultural, like food, etc. So these languages become part of their identity, who they are. And of course, we try to show that these languages, they can read and write in, so French, Japanese, on top of English, give them access to more fun, so more games, more books. And the second thing is to really try to make our languages functional. So languages that give them access to more fun. On our side, it's a lot of research. We have to find fun games that they can play in their home languages, or books that they want to read that don't exist in English, for example. We really want them to see that knowing 3 languages, or being able to read in 3 languages, is helping them access 3 times more things. Because in the end, we all prioritize what's important in our eyes. So if, for example, they see the value of knowing all these languages, they'll be more likely to carry on even when they have less time. So in a nutshell, if we want to future-proof our children's multi-literacy journey, we need to make sure that they are having a positive experience of reading and writing their home languages. So I hope these observations and tips I've just shared have helped you see the possible challenges that you and your child might come across, and that by knowing about them, you'll be able to prepare yourselves and to overcome them more serenely. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to put a thumb up and to share it with any family it might help. And if you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to your channel and ring the notification bell. Bye everyone!